Goal setting for me has been something that it's really important to me. And I recommend it to a lot of different people I talk to that have any sort of goals or ambitions. Because when you do the exercise of mapping out where you want to be, like that end result, work backwards to figure out exactly what you need to get there. It's essentially a path.
At Elements of Culture, we sit down with experts in leadership and team building to explore the DNA that drives a thriving organization. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Elements of Culture. My name is Taryn, and I'm joined with my co-host, Julie, today. And we are so excited to talk to Eric Gordon. Thank you so much for joining us. He is the CEO and founder of a company called Parakeet.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. We're so excited just to learn a little bit about your background, I want you to tell us all about Parakeet and kind of your journey, what's brought you to where you are today. So this is kind of an email cold call outbound solution for businesses. What has brought you to this place to launch Parakeet, and how have you gotten here thus far?
Yeah, absolutely. So Parakeet's a cold email platform for sending sales type cold emails to prospects. We got started out of our agency. We actually started as a cold email agency where we were running different go-to-market campaigns and outreach strategies for different clients. And we were using different tools in the market that really weren't doing exactly what we were hoping for. So we ended up building a solution just for us. And then once it started working for us, we realized maybe we should really productize this thing and go to market with it. So that's kind of where Parakeet was founded and how it got started. And I can go a little bit more into my background too, how I started the agency.
Yeah.
If you
Yes,
like.
please do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You have such an extensive sales background. And when we were talking before jumping on here today, you started off as the first sales guy. So tell us what that looked like from the first guy selling to where you're at today. That's quite a journey.
Yeah. I can walk through my journey and it's been definitely a fun ride. And what I can say is I love being in doing sales, being in a sales leadership position. And it's really not just how I got started, but it's what I enjoy doing every day. So it makes it's less of a job. It's really my passion. And especially in the position I'm in now, where I get to run different outbound campaigns for different clients. And we have Parakeet's our software where we have tons and tons of users using our platform to do sales. It's one of the coolest things. So yeah, when I got started, very early in my sales career, I joined a startup in the automotive space. It was a software company. And I joined as technically the second employee and the sales guy. And my job was to just figure out how to find ways to break through different prospects and set up sales meetings and close those sales meetings. And it was one of those things where I think I had some good mentors along the way that helped me figure out how to run a sales process, combined with me just really trying to figure the thing out. And eventually I figured out something that worked in terms of getting meetings with prospects, and then eventually how to close those meetings. That was a different challenge I had to solve for. And again, shout out to some of those sales mentors that helped me along the way. And once I started figuring out how to sell this thing, and this was again my really early stages of my sales career, being one of the only employees in the company, I had to also figure out how to service and manage those customers that I was signing up. And it got to the point where I was trying to do cold calls or write email campaigns, and my phone was just ringing not consistently, but enough with customer requests, support requests, that my thought was I should probably hire someone to manage these support requests because I want to focus on selling. That's what I really enjoy. So that was really what kicked off me in a sales leadership position. I opened up a job rec. I interviewed a handful of people. I found someone. I think I got lucky on my very first hire ever, and put someone in place that would do customer service and onboarding so I could continue to focus on selling. And at that point, I realized I can really scale this thing. I should focus on building out different facets of the business, both on the sales side, operations, and support. So very early on, I would say within a couple of years, I ended up building out really a sales department, customer service department, and grew into a VP of sales and operations position. So it was pretty early in my career. I think I was 24 years old, leading a decent sized team of people, really not knowing what I was doing, but figuring out along the way, which, brings me to the things I do now, it's similar. I think I have a little bit more experience, but there are still things where I'm still figuring out along the way and just kind of like experimenting. That's one thing I really love and enjoy about startups. We get to experiment and test a lot of different things, figure out what works best and continue to grow.
Yeah, I really like that because I think humble beginnings teach us a lot in regards to how to move. I think for people who are willing to take healthy risks. Eric, let me ask you this. You talk about how young you were and you're employee number two. Talk to me a little bit about what are the skill sets you thought you had. And then when you realized when you jumped into the role, it was like, hey, this actually isn't my strong suit. This probably needs to be done by somebody else. Or tell me a little bit about how you prepared for that. Because when you're talking about growing and scaling, Taryn and I always talk about, okay, I'm not good at this. Like, this is not a good thing for me to do. Like, I'm not going to do this well. Did you learn that along the way, or were you very well aware of the fact that this is not my thing? And how did you navigate through that? Do you work on the things you're not good at, or do you just get somebody else to do that? What is your plan in developing that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And really, when I went into like when I started diving into this like that role, I had no idea. It was one of those things like I really didn't know what I was good at and what I wasn't good at. Uh, so it was just a matter of like what's working, what's not working. I knew what I enjoyed, and I think when I went into it, I was very dead. My mindset is like when I do something, I'm 100% all in and I'm dedicated, so I will figure it out. But your question is like, what do I like? What am I good at or better at than other things? I think what I realized when things started to annoy me, that's when I realized like, maybe I'm not the right person for that task. There's actually there's a really interesting book, a cool book that I've read somewhat recently called Who Not How. And one of my favorite sayings from it is about like procrastination, which is your inner self telling you that you might not be the right person for that task or that role. So when I start realizing I apply a whole lot more of that today, but back then when I was like answering the support calls, getting annoyed and like putting those tasks off to the side, that was kind of me telling myself that, hey, I should really find someone else that's either better at this or more motivated or just a better fit for these types of things. So that's really like, I would say I figured it out back then, maybe unintentionally, just based on like what I wanted to do, what I didn't want to do. Now I'm very intentional with that as I think about like scaling businesses. I think about like what I'm good at and my strong suits for certain things, and I focus as much of my time on those things as I can.
That's so good. I'm thinking you said you were kind of like 24 when you were moving into that VP of sales. That's young. And for someone who's starting, in sales, I imagine you have to be a pretty motivated individual. And like you said, you had some great mentors along the way. So what would you say to someone who is maybe just stepping into a sales role or even who's further along in their career path and they're wanting to maybe possibly look at opening their own, maybe their company, or they're identifying those opportunities. What would you say from your perspective? Like, what are the best ways that you found individually to keep you grounded, to keep you balanced, and to keep you motivated to really go after those dreams that you have?
If you're thinking about starting something new or like attacking this new project, this could even apply for if you're working at a company and you want to like grow into a certain position. Goal setting for me has been something that it's really important to me, and I recommend it to a lot of different people I talk to that have any sort of goals or ambitions, because when you do the exercise of mapping out where you want to be, like that end result, and you can work backwards to figure out exactly what you need to get there, it kind of turns it into a formula rather than like it's it's essentially a path. So if you can do that exercise in a way that makes sense to you as you kind of put together this formula or this path to get to your end results of where you want to be, I think that is like that might be the hardest part, really, is like mapping it out. And then it comes down to execution. So there's like this accountability piece where, again, like let's say you want to start a business. So the end goal is you want a business with X number of clients or revenue, and think about like the employees you need. So you kind of like work backwards. How do you get there? There are little things that roll up into each one of these goals and targets, and every single one is actionable. And it comes down to just like holding yourself accountable, doing whatever it takes to get there. If you're really serious about those targets and goals, then that's kind of how I approach like my business and the different goals and ambitions that I have. I map everything out. I actually look at this thing like, hate to admit daily, but I look at least weekly. Like here are my goals. Here's what I need to do on a daily, weekly basis. Then I do that exercise with anyone that's interested, like folks on my team. I map out the same thing for them personally and for their career paths. It can be applicable anywhere, but it's really, I'm oversimplifying it, but really it comes down to like figure out what you want and then do whatever it takes to get there.
Yeah, that's really good because I think maybe visually seeing it even once a week or even daily changes and rewires your brain. And I think to set your day up or set your week up and also like possibly overcome hurdles. So Eric, you said a word, accountability. And so you kept bringing up great mentors. I would love for you to talk about how surrounding yourself with mentors and that accountability kind of changed the trajectory, or did it change the trajectory of the decisions you made and how you made them?
It absolutely did it. Having the right folks around you, or at least like the right mentors to even bounce ideas off of, or like give you a little bit of the right direction, can really change a lot, especially for like entrepreneurs or folks that are even in IC roles, individual contributing sales roles. Sometimes you kind of have this tunnel vision where you're so focused. You might be running like sales calls and they're going one way that you think is like the right way, but if you just change one little thing that you didn't know about, can go a completely different way. This goes all the way back to when I was like figuring out sales at my first startup. I was running these demos and thinking like, okay, I don't know why I'm not closing more, but they sound great. My prospects telling me it's really cool. It's a cool solution. Why aren't they buying it? And like my mentor at the time, who's still my sales mentor today, by the way, he said, what you're doing is like the show up and throw up demo approach. It doesn't work. Stop doing it. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And he said, just listen to yourself. Turns out like this was before like the call recordings with like the analytics. I was probably talking like 70, 80% of the time. And he's like, you're not asking questions. Like you're not understanding their pain and solving their specific problems with your technology. You're just telling them all the things that you have, regardless of if it's a fit or not. So it was like that piece of feedback that changed my entire approach in sales. And I still applied that new method of selling today. But that's like one example of a lot of different things that have kind of guided me to where I am now in my experiences, both from like a mentorship perspective. And also, again, I try to surround myself with as many people that can really push me and challenge me, but also like make sure I'm on the right track.
Yeah, that's so good. I think, I don't know about you, Eric, and it's wonderful that you still have that relationship with your first sales mentor. That just speaks to the quality of leadership that that person brings to the table. But I certainly have had personally different experiences, both good and bad. And, those who don't bring those type of great leadership qualities, you certainly, take the bad and notice those things. And those that do motivate you, you continue that relationship. And so I do think that, relationships with mentors and those that can speak into your life are so valuable as you continue your path forward. So you obviously have a team at Parakeet. And I just want to ask you a little bit. You mentioned, you're holding the team accountable, you're painting vision and direction for them. What do you see right now for your team as you guys are scaling to grow? What are some of the challenges that you see? Maybe it's within your org, maybe it's not, maybe it's within your network. What are some of the challenges that teams are currently facing when it comes to scaling with sales?
Scaling sales can be really challenging and from every different perspective. And also like me being in the world of like scaling a handful of different sales departments and organizations at different companies. There's always unique challenges that I will uncover that I either didn't expect or didn't anticipate that either come out of nowhere or, it's part of the journey. I would say right now, some of the challenges within how we're thinking about and how we're aiming to scale our sales organization really comes down to I would say the talent and methodology behind how we're selling. So this is Like, and I'll start by saying, like, when I mentioned talent for us is like everything. We're really, the way that we grow our teams, we focus a lot on finding the right people, not just like, can they do the job, but are they the right like fit for the role? And is it a good mutual fit? We take it a step further to see like, what does their 1, 2, 3 year plan look like? And can we support that plan internally? So there's a lot more than just like, can this person do the job? It's a lot about like, is this a great fit for us? And are we a great fit for them? So I would say like some of the challenges we're running into are like really identifying and finding that type of person specifically within sales. I think we've really nailed it down in like the customer success and some of our operational positions and development as well. Sales is tough because I think today, like being 2025, it has gone a little bit harder. And our sales approach, maybe the sales approach that we're using is very specific and it requires a very specific type of person to help execute that. So yeah, like a lot of it's kind of around like people and talent. And like we are really selective in who we bring on board. And right now, like we're going through the exercise of trying to find the right person. And that's maybe one of the challenges we're running into as well.
So Eric, I love that you said that you're selective about it's not just about whether they can get the job done, but are they a good culture fit? Talk to me about the culture of what you're trying to protect and how that healthy culture, or is there a part of your culture that you're like, hey, I would like to change this? And has it evolved? I know you're a startup, but does the culture of the team need to evolve? I know I don't know where you were during COVID, but I always wonder, like, I know this, the culture of a team had to shift a little bit during COVID because everybody was shifting. So talk to me a little bit about your team culture and how you protect that. And what are the attributes that you want your team culture to be successful? And you said specifically, I feel like it's easier for other departments to nail it just right. Sales is a little bit difficult. And I think that's across the board. We've heard that.
Yeah, sales can be difficult. I think a lot of it's because the shift in culture with maybe like an in-office environment to remote environment. Our team is remote, 100% remote. So we have like employees across the whole country. I think there's only like a handful of teammates in the same state. So we're really like, we're all over the place. And the way that I look at, um, Julie, I totally lost the question as I'm thinking about like where our team is mapped out.
No, no. No, what I was asking is talk to me about the culture of the sales team and how you protect that as a
Yeah.
company. Like, what are the attributes? And then I'm kind of glad that someone does the same thing I do and totally goes blank. That's just great.
Well, I'll jump. I was going to jump in and just paint a little more picture. So we were talking recently, Eric, with another leader, and he was saying like his whole team is remote too. And so some of the things that they've had to do to help with the culture of the team is they're getting together in person, throughout the year, or there's different ways to engage with them because as individuals, being able to contribute to that community and that culture is so valuable. And so I think within every organization that looks different. So maybe you can kind of tag on that piece too as you talk about the culture of Parakeet.
Yeah, for sure. So with us, it's actually pretty interesting. We basically started as an agency service, like a managed service business. And then we got to build our software, Parakeet, out of our agency. So we kind of got to like do the culture thing twice. Like we basically like got to maintain our culture within our agency and then expand it and grow it and almost like curate our own mini culture from within. Um, and I mention that because like Parakeet has kind of like a different culture and branding, even though we're the same company. We've kind of like spun off this like fun voice and brand behind Parakeet. And I would say like the teammates that are more involved on the Parakeet side of things, like it's a different type of culture. And it's actually really, really cool. And we work like, again, we're the same team, like same people, but we also work on different parts of the business. And we've maintained a pretty cool culture being remote, fully remote. We do try to get like together in person once a year at least, but depending on the different departments, we'll get together sooner, which kind of creates that strong bond. And like, it's funny when you work with someone for so many months or sometimes like a year plus and you've never met them in person and finally meet them. It's like, okay, this is really cool. There's like this connection you didn't have over a Zoom call or virtually. So yeah, we've kept these like kind of cool cultures going. And I think the biggest thing is like this collaboration over Zoom or Google Meets or whatever can be tough. But if you do it in a way that's as collaborative as possible, meaning like you're working together like you would in an office, being able to bounce ideas and strategize. Sometimes, I mean, this kind of sounds silly, but like sometimes we'll hop on a Zoom, myself and like some of our teammates, and just like work on a problem together where there isn't necessarily an agenda. We're sometimes like quiet for a few minutes or more, but then we like work through this problem. Like it really brings us together to a point where I think that's as close as you can get to like sitting next to each other in the office, but virtually. So we've kind of kept that going to the point where like it's been really cool. Like I would have never imagined we'd be able to do this fully remote with this many people and maintain it. Where like I hope most of us are like really happy where things are at, where the culture's at.
Eric, if you could name 3 attributes to define or describe the culture at Parakeet, what 3 words would you use?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Um, I would say like number one is like fun. Like that sounds kind of it's like really cheesy, but like we just and that's like the main one. Like we want to have like fun while we're doing the things that we need to do, and it becomes less of work and more of like let's enjoy what we do, have a really good time while we do it. End result, like everyone should be happy. Our clients should be happy. Like we'll execute and fulfill what we need to fulfill, but like we'll be in a good mindset as we're doing so. And then I think we have a handful around like this do whatever it takes type mentality or attitude of and like the whole team shares this. This is part of the interview process that I mentioned earlier, like finding the right fit, because our team is really dedicated. So we have this mentality of like, if we agree to do something, we're going to do whatever it takes to get it done and do it right. And that's like the approach that we kind of attack everything with, whether that's software development, like building something great, or executing a client campaign for them. Like we're going to make sure that they're not just like happy, that they're really impressed that we did it. We did a really good job. That wasn't 3, but that was like the way the way I'm thinking of this. Like that's I think what our team would say. Like we work really hard. We have a lot of fun when we do it, and that's a little like sneak peek into our culture.
Love it. Love it. So fun. Everybody's having fun. Who doesn't want to work at a place who's having fun and delivering results for a client? Um, I want to ask you this. I'm going to pivot just a little bit. As a CEO and founder of Parakeet, and your wide background of sales, as you're looking forward for Parakeet over the next 6 months, over next year, there's so many different technologies. AI has become such a big component of business growth. And what do you see? What do you guys at Parakeet really have your eye on that you believe is going to help scale the business? Whether you know those solutions or not, what are some ways that you as a CEO are kind of keeping your hand on just to keep a pulse and identify areas that either A, you need to be incorporating into your company to continue to drive success, or B, just something to keep on the forefront as you begin to scale, or excuse me, continue to scale?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm trying to do my best to talk to as many customers and users and prospects as possible. So what that helps me identify are potential areas of opportunity in the future so we can always innovate. And I think I can't say like a lot of founders or CEOs, but I think that founders and CEOs can do more of that, like talk to their users, talk to their customers. I spend most of my days right now just like on these calls, learning as much as I can. And also not just improving what we do, but figuring out how do we innovate? How do we get ahead of this big AI wave that's coming through? And I think like the people that are right in front of you will kind of help guide you and like pave some sort of way, at least into like the ideology and thinking of what makes sense. That's one way. I think that another way is like I'm always looking to see not just what like our competitors are doing, but what other big players that aren't in our space are doing and how they're incorporating certain things into their business for scalability, because it can be applicable anywhere. So for us, we actually just did this exercise earlier this week. So it's great timing. We tried to identify like what does our company look like in 2 to 3 years, which is actually really hard to do, especially because like we are changing, like we're innovating and changing every quarter, it seems like. So we try to paint the picture of what does Parakeet look like in 3 years, even though it's like feels near impossible. And we try to paint this futuristic picture of, okay, if this is what we look like in 3 years, what are all the things that we need to do to actually get there starting today, like starting from today? Goes back to like the goal setting. That's a big part of our exercises here, but that's a big part of like just staying ahead of innovation and always making sure like we're talking to the right people and getting the right feedback.
Yeah, that's so good. I think sometimes when you think about leaders that are at the top or CEOs, sometimes you get so busy or so caught up in the day to day that you're not in touch with the daily customer as much. And I think that that's just a great point to bring up. But also, like you said, going back to the goal setting, it sounds like that's really part of your culture at Parakeet. And I think if companies are doing that, they truly can stay ahead versus getting to that point in 2, 3 years and having to backtrack to catch up. So certainly that it just seems like such a smart approach. And then you mentioned this earlier, and Julie was highlighting it, the accountability piece of it. So when you are planning, how are you actually taking steps to accomplish that? That's
Mhm.
so good. One last question. We're going to wrap up here in just a moment, Eric. But what would you say? And I know we talked about this as an early sales guy, but as someone who is motivated and driven to build a company, what's one bit of advice that either your current amazing sales mentor or maybe someone else in life has given you to really go after and build the dreams that you have? What's just one little nugget that you can leave with us today?
Yeah. The biggest, maybe not the biggest, a nugget that I'll leave everyone with, just in terms of like going after and achieving goals is it's really about like taking that jump or that risk. And this is something that like it's usually it was outside of my comfort zone initially. I had to force my way into being comfortable with it. And like, even to this day, like it's still a little bit uncomfortable, but evaluating that risk and like taking that jump or that leap into what you'd think and might not know at the time, but could be that big opportunity for you. Could be anything. It could be starting a business. It could be taking a new job or even just like starting a new project. There's always these like risk reward, like decisions you have to make. And I think a big part about like what I've done in my career is like I've always found a way to take that jump or that risk into the next thing. Maybe not always. Maybe there's ones that I didn't do that I might, if looking back on, like I coulda, shoulda. But like if your gut tells you to go with something, you should do it. And that's really, I've been working towards going with my gut a whole lot more because I'm typically much more calculated. And I realized like, I thought about that decision way too hard. I should have just, I knew it was the right one. I should have just went with it. So I think that's maybe a little nugget. Hopefully that's helpful for some of the listeners out there.
No, I think it's great. Taryn and I always talk about healthy risk, and we see a lot of businesses trying to coach people into taking healthy risk and taking risk on themselves and saying, hey, like, it's okay. Like, if it doesn't work, a healthy risk is, I think, build something within you to do greater things. And so I think that's excellent. I think we need to see more healthy risk. I think that's what creates great innovators.
Right, right. And I think the other piece of that too is I'm talking about like the companies that have so far been successful, but what I haven't mentioned are the many other startups that I've tried launching that have failed. And with that, like there was risks involved as well.
Sure.
So yeah, it's fun. Like everything, if you look at it in a way which everything you do, whether it's a risk you take or a decision you make, is a learning experience. Like that's, I mean, you have to learn from all the things that you do, and that's really what I've kind of applied. I think I think OSP and Parakeet are probably startup idea number 11 and 12, maybe 11 and 13. The other ones didn't make it, so
That's beautiful. Yeah, thanks for sharing that because I think sometimes you look at those that are currently successful in their roles and you might be back here scared to take a leap. And so it's nice to hear that as a CEO, as a founder, like you have to, that's part of the journey. That's part of how you get to where you're going. So don't let fear hold you back. Yeah, take the risk if it's a healthy risk and you want to be calculated about it. I think that's great too, but go for the risk. Well, Eric, thank you so much for this conversation, for sharing your time with us today and just giving us some insight on leadership, how you've built your journey along the way, how you built Parakeet. It sounds like just an amazing place to be and lots of fun with you guys and your team. So thanks for jumping on with us today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Eric.